order. For people that are watching from home or in their car, the access links to get into this meeting are on the website. So joining us tonight is Select Board members Kevin Galligan, Mary Wright, Michael Herman, Mark Matheson, myself, Matt Runyon, as well as Town Manager Kim Newman, Assistant Manager Mark Reel, and Executive Assistants Molly Bates and Laura St. John Dupuy. So with that, I just want to let you know that if you're here for agenda item number 10, it's going to get moved to the end of the meeting. And the reason being that we have an executive session scheduled at the end of the meeting that needs to be done first. So if you are here to talk about that and don't want to wait till the end of the meeting, public speak would be what you should be doing. Please.
We acknowledge with respect that we are inhabiting the traditional lands of the Wampanoag peoples who have always existed here. We value their roles as past, present, and future guardians of this land.
Thank you. Next is announcements, and I'll just start off with one. I just, in case people here don't know, the town did lose a really great and important person this week in Len Short. And I think probably most everybody here knew him, and you'll know what a contributor he's been to this town for a long time. And so he will be missed. Any other announcements? Next up is public comment. So just raise your hand if you'd like to make comment. Alice?
Thank you, Meff. I'm Alice Thomas, and I live at 25 Blueberry Island Road. And I just wanted to share two comments with the board, if I could. First, I was very disappointed to hear the deliberations of the July 29 ZBA meeting. I'm not going to comment on the content of the project, as those on the ZBA are much more knowledgeable than I. I have not followed the design since its first presentation by Union to us in May of 2022. However, I will say that what's evolved is far from what I envisioned and many others in terms of a village and a community to join our residents. I have several issues around the process that came up at that ZBA meeting, and including to what extent the public has been actively sought to engage in design. Also, the order and coordination of the boards and commissions involved in review, and the original intent of the residents in voting to appropriate tax dollars towards the project. All of those issues came up at the ZBA meeting. They were discussed and debated, not any conclusion, but I'm hoping the Select Board will contemplate these. I ask that the Select Board contemplate these issues and seek remedy. As a past Planning Board member, we had occasions where the order and coordination of boards and commissions in decision-making relative to development projects was less than ideal and created challenges. I think we need to take a look at that, how we share information as we're moving developers through the process. The second thing I'd like to mention is that when the Select Board last took up the topic of residential tax exemption, immediately following Brad's presentation, one member of the board said she needed more data before making any decision, and 3 of you followed suit on that. Before you take up this issue again, I would like the board to share with the public what those data points were that you needed and what you determined from those data points. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Scott?
Afternoon, Scott Zenke, Doan Road. Again, on the Governor Prince property, I echo Allison's sentiments. Also, the May 21st warrant at the town meeting, Article 23. It states in the warrant itself, and I'll cut down to Select Board and other Town of Orleans Affordable Housing Trust Fund to acquire by gift, by purchase, by eminent domain, or otherwise general municipal purposes, including but not limited to affordable housing. Looking at the plans from the 29th meeting this past Monday, that's all it is affordable housing. We will have a massive structure at one of the highest points in town that will dwarf the trail system that is directly behind it. Once the leaves are off that tree, you're looking up in a general direction just to the foundation, plus go another 40 feet to the peak. By having these laws where the state's given these guys authority to just run roughshod over all commissions except for ZBA, there's no access for rails to trails directly to Route 6. There's a pathway that meanders down, I'll call it the northeast corner of the property, which is basically a path for the people that live there. Wouldn't it be great to get off the trail, go 2 ice cream shops right there? Lost Dog, businesses that aren't accessible any other part, and we're just going right past it. A lot more planning needs to be done, and I think this thing needs to be scaled down tremendously. We have no control over who's going to live there. We build this thing for our teachers and police department, firemen, and they've got a shot to get there, very slim. With the federal and state money, it's a lottery system at best. So if we're looking to do something for the people that live in this town and work in this town, we got to do something better than what's there. It is atrocious. It's going to be massive. 5 full acres of development, looking up at it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Yes,
I'm Lydia Dupertis, and I used to be Moore. My dad, Charlie Moore, was a selectman here way back in the 1980s, and I speak for him today. I'd like to go back to your call to order in the preamble, which I had never seen before. I haven't been to a meeting for a long time, but we acknowledge with respect that we are inhabiting the traditional lands of the Wampanoag peoples who have always existed here. We value their roles as past, present, and future guardians of this land. So I want to speak for the environment. How can we build all these extra things for people who need them if we can't give them water? We sit, Cape Cod is a sand and gravel remnant of the last time glaciers retreated from the North American continent approximately 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. And as shown in certain maps that I've looked at, the Cape is a series of broad, gently sloping outwash plains consisting of sand and gravel deposited by streams of glacial meltwater that are truncated by long linear moraine deposits found along the present day. The Cape Cod Aquifer provides 100% of the Cape's drinking water, and for this reason has been designated as a sole source aquifer under the Safe Drinking Water Act by the Environmental Protection Agency. May we continue to protect our land. Thank you.
yes, sir.
Ron Conti, Daily Terrace. Moved here in '93. I was here recently, and I decided I was going to do a little investigation. I visited FAR, talked to many people who are very unhappy with the management. They had nothing good to say about Penrose. You have a lot of Section 8, which that's part of life now. But the police go there every day. I went to see I talked a half hour with the police chief, and he was very subtle. Now, what can he say? You know, you have people there that are attacking each other, filing, distant things that you have to do. And it needs to be addressed somehow. Secondly, I paid a visit to the underground, and I happened to catch up with the foreman. And it is a gargantuan project if you once you go inside. It's incredible. 6 buildings on 6A, then the building inside is enormous. 3 floors, the other ones are 2 floors. And they're starting to go condos around. It looks like it's gonna be real nice, but they're gonna have Section 8 there too, supposedly. My feeling about Governor Prince, and I always felt this way, that we needed a community center in Orleans, and that would have been an ideal spot. I think that if we go ahead and build another 70 units or more, as it says, up to 350 units, which I said before, we're going to flood this town. And the beauty of it, of people coming here for baseball games and Nauset Beach and seafood, they're not going to come. We have to be careful of that because this is a delicate town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Bill?
Good evening. My name is Bill Wiebel, 65 Keziahs Lane, member of the Orleans Historical Commission. My interest in the project before the ZBA was initially simply one of a member of the Historical Commission. I was looking to see if we could get an archaeological survey in place as a condition of both demolition and building on the site. The lawyer for the developer indicated that that would have to come from the Mass Historical Commission, to which we have sent a letter. I then did some additional research, believing that the Cape Cod Commission also has a place for archaeological surveys. I called the Cape Cod Commission, spoke with the chief regulatory officer there. That individual indicated that she knew nothing of the project, either its scope, its intent, etc. So when the ZBA was offered the opportunity as a permitting authority to go to safe harbor, I feel as though town government did not provide ZBA with the options available to them and what the consequences were. They did say that if you didn't vote for safe harbor, it couldn't be denied. A friendly 40B is still a 40B. It falls under lots of jurisdictional regulatory authorities. And so I would ask that the procedure be reviewed, because I believe, had the ZBA been told, Cape Cod Commission cannot look at this, and therefore there's no recourse. A friendly B allows this to proceed. And so I would just ask the board to have the ZBA reconsider how it is that that vote took place and whether or not it can be rescinded. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you. My name is Mark Norjo. I live at 94 Barley Neck Road. I made some comments the other night at the ZBA, and I appreciate the time and so on. I just for a little background, for anybody that doesn't know, the hill that the Governor Prince sits on was the original location for the windmill, which is down at the bottom of the hill now. And it's historic to this town. But what sort of gets at me a whole lot is that what brought people to Orleans, vacationers who have been here for 40 or 50 years now, came here for what Orleans used to be. And this project is going to twist that whole thing around. We have a lot of giant homes in town now which are not lit during the wintertime. And this will be lit for sure, but it's gonna tower over top of the church, and it's over the top of the art gallery and so on. And it's like 100% used up. And I believe it was Mr. Zenke that mentioned that nobody is gonna have the right to park their bike at the bottom of the hill and walk through. Probably would not be stopped. But anyway, I would like very much to ask of the select board that they reconsider whatever action happened. I don't think that the townspeople, and I understand there is going to be something in the Chronicle today or tomorrow, which is going to show the townspeople what this project is. I love the hack application and the Habitat for Humanity. I think those are excellent, but I think the giant building at the top of the hill is going to change the character of that neighborhood and of our town. We already have large, giant projects. So really, bottom line, what I would love to ask of you folks is you would consider the possibility of asking the ZBA, getting behind the ZBA to change, probably deny the existing plan, table it without prejudice so that later on it can be revisited, and allow the HAC and Habitat for Humanity applications to go forward in some form. But the large thing needs to be settled out. We have yet to see what's going to happen at the former Cape Cod 5 and the project down at the underground. And the immensity of those projects tells me we ought to really consider what's going to happen to the town later on. There will be latent taxes that are going to apply to all these. And I would just ask you that you sort of clean the slate in your own heads and perhaps reconsider what has taken place and ask the ZBA to table the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi, I'm Mary Little, 28 Brick Hill Road. I support everybody that's spoken prior to me about the Governor Prince, but this is a question that's way down late, but I went to, after the town voted to spend the money to buy the Governor Prince, I think there was a charrette at some point, I can't remember what building it was in or whatever, but I went. And people were talking about things to do at the Governor Prince, and then somebody said to me, I can't even remember, they said, oh, well, it's going to be housing. And I said, well, no, we haven't been voted on that or anything. My question is, who made that decision that it was going to be housing, and when did that happen? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in this room for public comment?
I'm Peter Haig, 9 Anchor Drive. Yeah, I've been following this from the beginning, since it's partly, there was a number of us architects who were involved with trying to put proposals forward and suggestions. And we did a number of times, some of them are, I believe, are in the room, and they were not really even paid much attention to. We tried to make it a project that wasn't all affordable housing. And so anyway, that really got no support. The other evening, one of the selectmen who was here said that, where have you been over the last 3 years? And the reality is I've been very much involved in it because I've been very interested in it. But it all was a single focus idea of it being affordable housing with the big A. But the thing that was a bit shocking to me, though, having followed this all along, and maybe I'm just sort of slow and slow to the table, but the whole idea that we purchased this property for however many $1 million. Great deal, we thought it was, and we've held it for as long as we have for all the expenses that it has incurred. But what ended up happening, we were told, we thought at town meeting, is that this was primarily for our, for our young people. I have kids who've left the Cape because they can't afford to be here, and that this would be an option. And we were told the other meeting that originally 70% of them would be reserved or at least preferred for local people or had some kind of local connection, and the town could establish what that local connection would be. But what we found out is that as soon as there's a turnover, Well, then the other 30% would sort of be open to the statewide lottery. Okay? But what we found out, I found out for the first time, is that once that turnover occurs, it's open, say, a young person or family who was Orleans resident, once they left, that doesn't revert back to the 70% that prefers the town, it would be preferred for the town. It goes back to the general statewide lottery. And I do question, given all we've heard in the past while, is where is this, the money is being controlled by the state. The state has an agenda at this point, and that we have fallen prey, I think, to a financial incentive that is not in our best interest. It may be some other town, but not in the character of Orleans. And I'm sorry that I'm hearing about it now. And I imagine there'll be other people who are hearing about it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else in this room? Stephanie?
Stephanie Gaskill, 28 Pochette Road. One thing that no one else previously has brought up, the fact that this week we all saw Chronicle and in the Cape Cod Times that HAC has also spent $2.9 million to buy the Latanzi building on Main Street. I know that people have asked what the intent of that is going to be, but it has not been revealed. So that is another whole element of housing that may be coming into Orleans. We don't know yet. And when we look at what has occurred over the past year with the three major projects of Fair, 107 Main Street, and the Orleans Underground, I wonder if we are even considering what the implication will be of having this many people moving into such a highly dense project right in the middle of our town. The other thing is I have attended all three of the ZBA meetings. And what was startling to me was the difference between the May meeting when the specter of safe harbor was still there, and how the developers were very agreeable to listening to modifications. And they talked about how much input the town would be able to have. But by the June meeting, when a modification was presented, the tone totally changed. And at that point, everyone was told, no, that's a design change. We won't do a design change. And all that we have been able to be talking about since that time was making tweaks to that large building. Other than that, there has been no other change allowed. So I am very disturbed by the direction of all this, and I hope that there is some way that the town can reconsider where we are on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Peggy, is there anybody online?
Don't see any hands raised.
Okay. So that I'll call an end to public comment, and we'll move on to the public hearing, which is about 10 minutes late, but who is going to introduce this? So looking for my public hearing. Document, yeah.
In the packet.
in the pack.
Okay, hold on. Okay, the Orleans Select Board will hold a public hearing in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 130, on Wednesday, August 5th, 2026, at 5:15 PM in the Nauset Room of Orleans Town Hall, 19 School Road, Orleans, to consider the following: expansion of existing grant number 54B, located in Little Pleasant Bay, for grant holders Bethany Gibbons and David Reed, for an additional 1/2 acre expansion to existing 1 acre grant. License to expire on November 25th, 2034. The application can be viewed in the town manager's office during regular business hours. All interested parties are invited to attend the public hearing. Is Nate here?
Mr. Chair,
Hi, Nate.
I'd note me on my new glasses.
How'd you do that?
Right.
Magician.
Thank you. If you remember, it wasn't too long ago that Bethany Gibbons and David Reed came in, and we added Bethany's name to David Reed's grant in Pleasant Bay, and she's been hard at work out there. That was one of the provisions of the new aquaculture regulations, that we were able to add a second name to an already established grant. Well, Bethany's lit a fire under that grant, and she's being super productive out there, and she meets the minimum requirements, her and David, for an expansion of an additional 1/2 acre. So the purpose of this, Bethany Gibbons and David Reed presently share Grant 54B, a 1 acre shellfish grant in Little Pleasant Bay. This is advise you that I've reviewed the attached application submitted by Bethany Gibbons and David Reed for an additional 1/2 acre expansion of Shellfish Grant 54B in Little Pleasant Bay. The application meets the requirements of the Orleans Shellfish Grant Regulations and Mass General Law, Chapter 130. I ask that you take a vote tonight to allow for the expansion of an additional 1/2 acre. She meets the minimum requirements in the Shellfish Grant Regulations. And if you fancy to take a vote tonight, we can let her continue to farm out there and expand what she's already doing.
Would you like a
Thank you, Nate.
motion for discussion?
If you want to make a motion, and then we can get into discussion.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to allow the expansion of additional 1/2 acre to the existing grant license 54B issued to Bethany Gibbons and David Reed of Orleans, Mass, per the application approved by the Shellfish Department on July 13th, 2026, with said license to expire on November 25th, 2034. This license does not grant any property rights. It does not authorize any injury to private property or invasion of private rights.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Mr. Chair, it is a public hearing.
Yes, we got a public comment.
Sorry. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment?
Scott Zenke, Doan Road, member of Shellfish and Waterways Commission. We're looking for approval on this. As you know, it's backbreaking work, and anybody that wants to expand their business and take things on like this, we should be 100% in favor of. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else from the public that would like to comment? Hearing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So the public hearing is closed, and we'll move on to the vote that I believe has already had a motion and a second. Anything else people have to add? And then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Be 5-0.
Thank you, folks.
Congratulations.
You have a
Good
great
luck.
night.
Thank you.
So we can move right on to the next public hearing, which I'll read. Notices given under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, that 1,000 Steps LLC, DBA The Cormorant, Eric Plambeck has applied to the Orleans Select Board, the local licensing authority, for an annual on-premises restaurant all alcohol license at 89 Old Colony Way, Orleans, Mass. The premises are a 940-square-foot, two-story building. First floor is a 36-seat dining room and bar with 2 egresses, pool table room, storage, and 2 accessible bathrooms. Downstairs is a kitchen and storage with 1 egress. The hearing will happen Wednesday, August 5th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the Nauset Room, Orleans Town Hall, 19 School Road, Orleans, Mass. All interested parties will be heard. So, public hearing is open.
Dylan.
And, yeah, tell us what's going on.
So we have a restaurant in Chatham. We opened about 4 years ago, actually just over 4 years ago. And I grew up down in Chatham and remember that as ABBA from when I was younger, which I loved. That place was awesome. And then saw it become abroad. I used to be the general manager at Guapo's in Orleans and in Brewster. And we're just looking to kind of bring some new life and a new concept into the area. And we're hoping that, you know, it's received well and that people are excited about it.
Yeah, we're gonna do lunch and dinner. We make everything in-house, fresh, you know, classic New England food. And yeah, we'll probably have 10 to 12 employees and year-round.
Yeah.
Yeah, just looking to do something in Orleans. Yeah, our business in Chatham South Chatham is year-round as well, so we're here.
And what is the name of that business?
Drifters.
That's Drifters, yeah.
It's Drifters.
Okay, board, do you have questions?
One quick question.
Yes, Mark?
How do you get 4 people at 33%?
There isn't. There's 3 partners at 33% and then 1
Operator.
Who's a partner.
I mean, the only reason I bring that up is just so that we can correct what's in our packet.
Right,
Okay.
Because we have all 4 listed as
3%. Right.
owner-manager at 33%.
Okay, that needs
Got
to
it.
be changed.
Yeah, that needs to be
So
revised.
we have Eric, your owner-manager, 33%,
Correct.
and
There's 2 other
Kelly
financial partners, Kelly and Adam.
and Adam, our owner-managers, 33%.
Correct.
And then Dylan is,
He's starting at 0. He's the operator.
He's the
And-
operator.
And then once the initial investment basically is paid back, then our relationship switches.
all of which is inconsequential in terms of us acting on this, but I just want to make sure that we clean that up in our thing.
Okay.
Dylan's not 33%.
Not,
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Only thing I'll add, I support you guys, give you a lot of credit. Just if other people come in and visit, just remember they also might remember, in addition to ABBA, the brown bag.
yeah.
Dylan's dad.
Yeah, my dad
actually
talks about this a
talks
lot.
about
Yeah.
the brown bag.
Which was pretty cool.
It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
I can make a motion to get it
Well,
started if you want.
Let me just ask the public first, and then we can do emotions. Is there anybody from in the room who'd like to speak to this? Now is a good time for a motion.
Sure. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the new annual on-premise Section 12 all alcoholic beverage restaurant license for Thousand Steps LLC DBA as the Cormorant, located at 89 Old Colony Way, Orleans, Mass. 02653. Subject to local state laws, including Town of Orleans liquor licensing rules, MGL Chapter 38, and final approval by the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission, ABCC, unless it is revoked sooner by the Select Board. Said license shall expire on December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Michael, could I also get a motion to close the public hearing?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the public hearing is closed. Now we're on to the main motion. And is there any further?
No, other than
Discussion?
we're excited to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So are we.
So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We
You
have
got
a
us.
few other things to
Yeah,
get to.
you got us for a couple, I think.
Yeah.
You stuck with us, sorry.
Hand over this. Sure.
I think, why don't we just, these aren't the next parts aren't public hearing, but why don't we just
I can
Make
make
a
a motion
motion, yeah.
first and discuss. Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the application submitted by Thousand Steps LLC DBA as the Cormorant located at 89 Old Colony Way, Orleans, Mass. 02653 for an annual common vittler license subject to all standard local rules and regulations.
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, we move on to the entertainment license.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the application submitted by Thousand Steps LLC DBA as the Cormorant located at 89 Old Colony Way, Orleans, Mass. 02653 for an annual entertainment license Monday to Saturday for the operations of 2 pool tables, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., subject to all standard local rules and regulations.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And next is the next entertainment license.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the application submitted by Thousand Steps LLC DBA as the Cormorant located at 89 Old Colony Way, Orleans, Mass. 02653 for an annual entertainment license on Sunday license for the operation of 2 pool tables from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., subject to all standard local rules and regulations.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Then hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Clean sweep.
I think our business is concluded.
So much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yours is
Oh,
about to start.
Yeah.
When are you getting open, by the way?
We're just waiting on the licenses, and then after, I mean, this meeting was kind of the start of that.
So tomorrow for lunch?
Yeah, should we be there tomorrow for a pool game?
Okay.
And come and see us at Drifters at that time.
When the license lands.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So as I mentioned at the beginning, the agenda item 10 regarding the Governor Prince is going to be the last, it's going to be moved to the end of the agenda. And so we're going to move on now to the fire chief, our agenda item number 11. Welcome, chief.
Hello. Just give me 1 second. Unplug this. Save that for you in a second. All right, good evening, everyone. Jeff Deering, Fire Chief. To start with, provide a quick update on the fire department and what's going on for the first half of 2026. I did submit to the board in the packet some call statistics, and sort of the take-home message of that is calls are way up. Outside of even what was involved in the February blizzard, we see a trend that is continuing up overall. Looking back over the last couple years, sort of at this point in the year, so far this year, we've done 1,869 calls. At the same point in 2023, we had done 1,473. And it sort of trends in line with what we've been seeing. Even from last year, we're up about 200 calls, a little over 200 calls at this point. And I think that says a lot of different things. One is that there's a demand for our services. Even with the staffing additions, they're continuing to work very hard and deliver services to community. Medical transports continue to trend up. We're seeing that multiple call, 2 or 3. Lately, it's been 5 calls at a time that we've been sort of struggling to cover. but is sort of typical of July and August that we see. But overall, I would say the calls are up that way, and kudos to our staff for covering as many of those. I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about some of the impacts we're having with staffing right now related to medical leave. Good news when it comes to the fleet overall. The tower ladder that we ordered in January of 2024 is scheduled to start to be built probably in September. We're expecting to see that February or March of 2027. This is in line with sort of the national challenges of delivery of emergency vehicles. It's actually slightly ahead of schedule from when we ordered it, but it is actually coming into focus, and we have a department committee that has been working closely with the manufacturer to make sure that that vehicle is designed to our needs. It's exciting to have that moving along finally. Additionally, our first of 3 ambulances that we currently have on order. This ambulance has been on order since August of 2023. We're expecting that to go into production in September as well, and hopefully we'll see that later or early in 2027. This delay on ambulances in particular has been really hard on our fleet. We're adding a lot of time and miles to the vehicles that we have, a lot of wear and tear where we would normally replace these a lot sooner. So the idea of having ambulances starting to come in is very exciting. The ambulance that we're replacing has close to 200,000 miles on it, which is pretty high, but when you really total out the number of hours on that, it's closer to probably 400 or 500,000 miles. So it's time to replace that vehicle. Some staff updates. First, I'm really excited to highlight firefighter paramedic Ned Brigham, completed the Massachusetts State Fire Academy at the 10-week Career Recruit Academy on July 17th. It's great to have him back. His exciting addition to the department, really talented guy and part of a great family. We're really proud of him. Unfortunately, on the other side of that, we have a number of members on long-term medical leave. At the time that I submitted this report, it was 3. It's up to 4. And I have another one out on a parental leave. So we're basically out 5 people right now. And what that does for the department, and when I'll go back to the call data, when we start a shift with 7 people on paper, take one of those off across each shift. Add in vacation or personal time, those kind of things. We're relying heavily on our members to cover those shifts, so we ensure that we have proper staffing on right now, and that pool is a bit limited having that many members out. We've been really lucky with the addition of the 8 positions in late 2023 that we're able to typically staff 2 resources, 2 ambulances, an ambulance and an engine on a daily basis, but the demand for those resources continues to be high, and we're relying on a not as big of a pool of staff as we prefer to have. Additionally, paramedic, we've got a number of members in paramedic training right now. 2 have are finishing their clinical time. One just finished, is doing his first part of the field internship. It started today, which is really exciting. Just paramedic school is about 18 to 20 months long. The first piece of it is classroom. It's about 1,800 hours of classroom training. Then they do about 400 hours of time in the hospital, and then they go to a field rotation. So there's 3 pieces to this. And then once they complete all those 3 pieces, then they go to certification and become paramedics. So it's a long process for that, but we're excited to have one that's going into field, another one that's finishing clinical, about to go into field, and several more behind them to increase the number of paramedics we have in the department. I think it's always good to acknowledge Deputy Chief Gula and his ability to get grants, because a lot of this is being paid for by an Assistance to Firefighters grant, a federal grant, and that grant was $231,000 that he was able to get last year to cover a lot of that training. We've been working on professional development in the department, so 7 of the members completed a Fire Officer 1 training, which is a 40-hour training, and then 4 more completed Fire Instructor 1 training. These are important, one, to give our staff the tools now to lead and manage things, but also going forward as sort of a succession plan, and we need to get these people ready for the future. And lastly, I think we're going to spend some time talking about it a little later, but I'm very grateful, the department is very grateful for the voters of Orleans for supporting the construction of the new fire rescue station. in May at town meeting. There's a lot of work being done on this project every day by town staff, the building committee, members of the department, and then as well as Ted Galante and his architectural group, as well as Rick Pomeroy as our project manager. It's an exciting project. We've got a lot of work to do, but to see it starting to come into reality is very exciting for me, but it's been a lot of work, and we got a lot more work to do. So I'm happy to entertain questions before we go to the second half of what we're here for, but.
Thank you, Mev. Chief, thanks again, as you put in your closing. Incredible thanks to you and the members who are really dealing with some high volume. In fact, just this past week, I think I saw 2 mutual aids coming all the way down to East Orleans from Eastham, so thank you to them, too. I've got 2 questions for you, Chief, and you happen to witness the public comment that now seems to be stepping up about concerns about housing in our community. Claims were made about visits required daily from public safety. Can you give me any take that you have in terms of response to specifically the Farr property or 107 Main? Has that been part of the increase, or is that different story?
I would say we have responded to both of those locations at different points. As far as a significant increase or a significant effect on the call volume overall in the department, I would not say that there's a significant increase in the total number of calls. Fine print, next part of that. The Fair Building at 19 West Road is a humongous building. It is from a fire protection standpoint, it is a challenging facility because of its size and the number of people who live there. Significant credit to our staff at the fire department and the shift captains in particular, who nearly every day they're over there training right now, because it is such a big building, and it's the biggest building we've really worked in Orleans from a residential standpoint. So they're training very hard on that building. But from a call volume standpoint, I would not say the fire department is directly seeing that. And we just this morning had a meeting with the management of Fair to discuss some of the worries we have townwide. I don't want to speak for the other people that were involved there, but felt like there was some common ground, and we're working closely with them to address those things. At 107 Main Street, we have not seen a significant increase in call volume from that particular location.
I have just one other follow-up, and on that last note, the board will recall with Penrose, the developer, we did execute a community benefits agreement that burned in a number of provisions, one of which was this training on a multi-story building. The second one is, and I see a finance committee member in the room, I think now the chair. David, your chair? Yes. Congrats. Overtime on the additional backfilling you're doing. Just give us a sense of what we can expect, so I don't want any surprises down the road.
No, we're watching it really closely, but yeah, with that number of people being out of work to begin with, will have an impact on the overtime budget. We are trying to manage it very closely, but with the call volume that we're seeing, we know we need at least 6 people on duty. We need to have those people there. So we're working, within the confines of the collective bargaining agreement, but we're trying to maintain that staffing to deliver the level of service that we need to.
Thank you.
I just had, Chief, thank you for that. I think I just had one question about when folks go into this paramedic training, are they then, how is that working? It's a lot of hours, but that's the time that they're not in the fire department, right, active. So how is that also building into your?
No, that's a piece of it as well, Mary, is that in particular, when they go into the hospital piece of it, the clinical rotations, we will typically take them off shift and have them accomplish their clinical time. And basically, in the equivalent amount of hours they are scheduled to for that work week, they would be assigned to clinical rotations. And the idea of that is to sort of, because the timeline for paramedic training is so elongated, if we can complete their clinical hours on a quicker basis, we can get them back that much sooner. During the classroom time, that is often separate from their on-duty time because of the schedule of the class. It doesn't always line up to when they're on duty. So there is an impact of that. And some of that is covered by the grant to cover that.
Gotcha, great, thank you.
Anybody else? Michael?
Thank you, Chief. I guess, can you give us any more detail on the increased call volume. It looks like a lot of it happened during the blizzard.
Yep.
Is that, I mean, not
The large portion of it is during the blizzard, but I would say, just
January and February look.
January and February, we were much busier than they typically are if you look back. But I would also say that like July of this year compared to last year, so 362 to 334, so there's about a 30 call difference roughly. But if you were to go back to 2023, it was 281. So I know that's not on the report, but I dug into it a little bit more because I wanted to sort of put some color to this. But that's what we're sort of seeing is that there's this, it's not all at once unless it's a blizzard, but
Which
we're
is
seeing a
good,
sort
right?
of steady increase of calls overall, although, it fluctuates a little bit. And that's sort of the challenge that I surely feel as the fire chief is how do we manage that? Because we can't predict when the calls are going to be. So we're trying to look at those trends of how do we staff? How do we look at that? When do we adjust the staffing if we can? But we're really seeing that sort of 6 on duty is at the minimum that we need to have. And, a lot of times, as Kevin said, like we saw 2 out-of-town ambulances coming into East Orleans the other day. Those things still happen even when we have those numbers working. You have 5 calls come in a 20-minute period. We just can't fully cover those.
And if I can, are you seeing more like transports that have gone up?
Yeah.
It's the transports.
Transports, we're seeing transports sort of steadily increase, but also the types of fire call, we're dealing with a lot of alarm calls and investigations that way. It's a really sort of an interesting thing that a lot more alarm calls. Many of them are real. There's carbon monoxide problems and things like that, but we have to treat all of them like something's going on until we get there.
Yeah.
But it's been an interesting, steady increase on those as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Chief, just in terms of the call volumes in the summertime, I mean, we know back, as Michael said earlier, January, February, the blizzard, there's a lot going on with that, obviously. But for the summertime periods, do you find that a lot of those are, this year, for instance, heat-related, elderly people, heat-related calls, or are the calls visitors, that are here, not necessarily year-round residents, or? Is there any-
Without looking specifically into that data, I don't know that, but I would say that the medical calls that we've seen have been heat-related because it has been particularly warm, but that has affected all sort of segments of the age population of the community. Typically our call volume does sort of slant towards the 60 and up. Is sort of the most common user of the ambulance. But we've seen that, but we've also seen increases in, we had that terrible stomach bug go through. We saw calls related to that, those kind of things. So it is definitely probably some visitors from out of, but I don't know what the percentage is. I didn't look at that number specifically. We can surely figure that out.
Seeing some of the death tolls, sadly, from Europe with the
Yeah.
conditions over there the last couple of months, and so I was just wondering whether we were seeing some of those increases.
We're definitely seeing the heat definitely has an effect on the call volume. And it has an effect on, that's hard on our staff too, as part of that.
And just, you just mentioned, while we were on that, the number of calls you have for alarms and detectors and whatnot. Are we finding that more of the dwellings in Orleans are equipped with relatively sophisticated alarm systems now for carbon monoxide and smokes, and they're hardwired, and a lot of people are really conscientious about that? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. What we're finding is we're responding to these calls because the alarms are going off. Many of them are for good reason, whether it's a carbon monoxide or some other problem, but also like occasionally there's problems with those systems, and we're finding those as well. But many of them, we're going out, it's been great opportunities to educate people about alarm systems, but also having house numbers, lock boxes. I went on a call recently that was at one of the farthest points in Orleans, off of Barley Neck Road, and there was a house that needed a lockbox, and it was a really good opportunity to meet with a resident to go, these are the things that we can do together to help you protect your home better.
Yeah.
And they weren't aware of that particular piece. And so, as much as we try to educate people, there's always an opportunity, and I say often to our staff, go make a friend. And that's, that was one of those things that was kind of cool. Because we were super busy, I was going on that call because there was 3 ambulances out,
Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that, Chief? Is there anything you feel like we can do more with education, or there's anything, I know you're closely working with the information department, and I know you guys have amazing outreach and things like that, and I've heard a lot from residents about the lockbox and having alarms and different things like that. And any of these kind of section calls, when you analyze the data, is there some things we could avoid or reduce slightly if people were more educated or aware of the options? I don't know.
I think there's there's always more education to do. There's more, no matter how much we do, I would always like to do more. I think those opportunities include when people need help from the fire department. One of the things that we see most often is that they need to call 911. About 10% of the calls that we get into the fire department come on our business line. And really, if you need the services of the fire department, we hear, well, we didn't think it was an emergency. We didn't want to bother you. Those are the kind of things, like, the best way to get a hold of us is dial 911. But I think, any opportunity we can to educate the public on using 911, lock boxes, those are big, house numbers are big. The File of Life program, which is a medical information card that we ask people to fill out. So if we do have an emergency at their home, we have that medical information immediately available. The list goes on. And I mean, helping people, we get calls occasionally from people, I need to get new detectors, what should I get? And it's outside of the typical when an inspection would be required because it's a change of hands in real estate. We do a number of those. So any of those opportunities, if people have questions, we'd rather that they reach out to us. But there's always more to do, more to do.
And are these calls, if I may, Mr. Chair, are these calls a combination of the 911 and the business
Yep.
calls? So this is the aggregate of, okay.
Yeah, the numbers that you see are the total responses that the department does, regardless of where the call came in.
Okay, so, and you respond to every call?
Yep.
Even if it's just a question on fire detectors?
If that wouldn't, if there's a vehicle that responds to that address, then
That's
yes,
what these
that's
numbers
what
are?
Yes, yep.
So, okay, okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
One other quick thing, just to note, because we have had that discussion in the past about the long lead time for emergency vehicles, that I noticed a few weeks ago that Senator Warren is pursuing that, introduced, I think, legislation is looking at the fact that what you alluded to before, that there's only 1 or 2 companies now, the monopolies have taken over, and only 1 or 2 companies that are making fire engines and ambulances, rescue vehicles in the country, and so the price has gone up and the timeline's been extended, and so there's potentially federal legislation that may go forward. I don't know if the fire departments are tracking that or weighing in on
Yep.
that or not, but that might be a ray of sunshine in that whole thing for the next round of equipment.
Hopefully, it's been challenging, particularly on the fire apparatus side of the puzzle, where there was a sort of a limit on there was some changes within the industry. There's several big name apparatus manufacturers. One of them is Pierce, which is where our ladder truck is coming from. It is owned by Oshkosh. It's a big company. And part of it was costs went way up and demand went way up. And then on the ambulance side of it, what we saw, there was significant demand for ambulances. The manufacturer, the vendor that we've been using for ambulances since the 80s to keep consistency with the fleet, their capacity to build ambulances is about 250 to 300 ambulances per year. They have about 800 pending orders, and they have 3 engineers. So the challenge of that, and there was a period of time where chassis was limited as well, but that sort of has righted itself. But now there's just such a backlog of demand of these vehicles that they're trying to catch up. And we're seeing that sort of now starting to really get better, but there was a period of time where nothing was happening, it felt like. But we're also tracking what is happening at the federal level. The state chiefs has met on this on a number of occasions. to sort of see what's going to happen as far as this federal stuff goes related to the apparatus manufacturing.
We all set?
Part one.
Part one. All right.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to part two, if that's okay. Part two comes under the emergency management umbrella. We are been working for a number of years, as many of you are aware, to review and refine our emergency management and our emergency planning. We've had a tremendous partnership with the Mass Maritime Academy Emergency Management Program since 2018, where we've worked with them to bring in interns to work on various projects related to emergency management and emergency planning for the town of Orleans. The students bring in really great knowledge because their course load is directly related to these items, and they can put time on task to these projects that maybe we don't always get to at the town staff level. And at the end of these internships is sort of a win-win for everybody, is that the students are able to come up with a project that is valuable, they can exercise the knowledge that they've had, but also the town often gets a product out of it that we can apply in real time during these events. This year, this summer, we were lucky to have Luke Sacco, who is a up-and-coming senior in the emergency management program. He's originally from Uxbridge, but been working with us in the town since June, and primarily working on really two projects. One is the Emergency Operations Center, which is located in the police station, as many of you know, but having some of the programs that we need to get that up and running. And he's created some checklists and some other documents to help guide the different people that will come in and operate the Emergency Operations Center and make those jobs a little smoother. The second project that he just started on is related to some potential reimbursement to the storms over the winter and applying for some reimbursement on that. We're working closely with Rich Waldo, DPW, and Calvin Sutton at DPW to do that, and that's pretty awesome. But at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Luke to speak to what his project has done.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. As Chief said, First Class Luke Sacco, Mass Maritime. And we're going to go over the new Emergency Operations Center. So first, I just want to go over the project purpose. So the first part I worked on was providing role-specific checklists. So when each member in the EOC comes in, they'll be handed a piece of paper, and it will have everything that they're required to do. That piece of paper is more of a general statement. Obviously, certain emergencies/events require different things, but it's something they can use to, kind of get started, check things off as they go. The next thing was an EOC floor plan. I wanted to maximize operational efficiency during emergencies and incidents. So that we have a PDF further down the slide to show you. And then we wanted to establish standard operating procedures. Next slide, let's go over a little purpose. The big thing is maintaining situal awareness and a common operating picture. You want everybody to be on the same page. When it comes down to this stuff, it's more of a simplicity thing. The more simple, the better. Everybody understands what's going on. It's going to go a lot more smooth. I wanted to mention coordinating operations between incident command and supporting agencies. That was maximized throughout the new floor plan. And then managing resource coordination, deployment, and mutual aid. Coordinating public information and external communication. So we have a PIO and then a social media person. A big emphasis on that is making sure everything's consistent when news and information gets released. And then assess and document incident impacts for recovery, so after the response phase. So right here is the new floor plan. So we wanted to go for kind of a horseshoe shape so that everybody can, communicate with one another. As you see in the middle, there's a materials table and then a comms table. Yeah, we'll kind of delve more into that as we go on. So yep, here are stations: municipal leadership, PIO, emergency operating center manager, incident commander/commanders, fire and EMS, police, DPW, public health, schools, council and aging, Eversource, and materials. For communication, I just want to ensure that all phones and radios and computers are functional and ready to be used, and then your ICS documents, your standard ICS documents, and then reimbursement tracking. So that's what would be at that materials table. For the EOC activation procedure, once the EOC gets a report that something's going on, you'll ensure that all initial actions are complete. Those initial actions can be found in the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. And then we have our assigned PIO. And then this is a big one. If necessary, send out public information statements. So we have Civic Ready, which is an alert system. I want to remind you all that you have to sign up for Civic Ready. It's not just something that the whole community gets. So if you want to be kind of in the loop for, emergency, especially the blizzard that we had this winter, that's something you should sign up for. And then authorizing activation of the community notification system. Yep. And then the operational procedures. Discuss with Emergency Management Director the need to declare a local state of emergency and declare if needed. Prepare and coordinate information release. So that's just having consistent messaging, making sure it's very clear cut, what everything means. And then conduct regular scheduled briefings. Coordinate actions for resource and volunteer activities. And then the EOC deactivation procedures. Maintaining records of all personnel, equipment, and supplies used for possible reimbursements. So whether that's pay, damaged equipment, anything that can fall under that umbrella. And then applying for state and federal relief funds if appropriate. And then this is a role checklist. So these entities are where you're going to find within that packet that I was talking about earlier. So they walk into the EOC after it's activated. They'll get handed a piece of paper with what they're supposed to do. And then here's just an example. So the EOC manager, their checklist is managing the EOC and its support activities, ensuring the EOC is staffed, organized and functioning, coordinating information flow between field responders and EOC leadership, tracking resource status, priorities, incident objectives, and supporting coordination among agencies and departments. So that's more on the leadership side of the EOC. And then this is one of the agencies that we have involved. I'm not going to run through every single thing, but it's the same concept. So everything that water and sewer has to do in a general emergency, again, kind of going to reinforce this. Every emergency is going to be different, but for a general, they're going to the EOC, this is their checklist. So they're going to go through and make sure each of these are checked off. And then just some recommendations. So consistently doing exercises. This is something that you can't be too good at doing. It's always better to be more prepared than, not being. And then doing training with MEMA. They're a great agency. They have trainings that go on. And I think it's something that's important to get involved in. That concludes my brief, subject to any of your questions.
Questions? Go ahead, Mike.
Other than just thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I would ask, if I could ask the chief a question. I think we talked about once with the emergency reimbursement. Did we get anything from the state yet for the blizzard?
No,
Nothing yet.
so the state, we've filed an initial disaster assessment, which was asked of us through the Massachusetts Emergency Management, MEMA. That was bumped up to the federal level for reimbursement, and it was denied at the federal level. There's an appeal process that is ongoing right now for that. We're hopeful with this second program that Luke is sort of leading right now, that there may be some opportunities to cover some of the costs that would be part of that initial disaster assessment may be covered during that, but we have to sort of work through that process a little bit. We'd love to get some of that money back.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Luke. Really nice job on your presentation. And the nice thing is, last year's intern, who knew, by updating the whole emergency management plan, the chief and others would put it to use during the last week of February, but it was good, we did it. One thing that, again, using the blizzard as an example for like EOC procedures kicking in gear, I like the fact of anybody that comes into that room, is handed what's going on. And, information as opposed to just wandering around and, that sort of thing. But one thing, Chief, is you probably heard, everyone in this town did an amazing job. DPW, everybody pulled together, got it done. The one complaint that we heard from the podium was, and it's not really in your charge, Chief, but it has to be covered because we take the hit on the warming center. So you've got shelter called. We know that is a definite defined term, what it means, dogs, no dogs, that all. But we missed the mark on a warming center for charging. Is there coffee? Is there food? It just went on and on. So I do think there needs to be a line of responsibility as to where are those, when do they get activated, and what stuff is there? Who does it? Is it the CERT people? We need power strips. There were a lot of things that were funky in that whole thing. And again, who knew we were going to be out of power for 5 days? But I think the degree of that upfront coverage, like you said, Luke, minimizes the crap that you have to deal with on day 5. So
Just to speak to that, Kevin, that is a lot that falls under emergency management, and it was not to where it should have been. That being said, we're spending a lot of time revisiting that, and there's a lot of work going on at the local level and sort of the county level, revisiting the sheltering program, because there were challenges with that as well during the blizzard that maybe we didn't fully see, but I can assure you did occur behind the scenes. And so I will say that I'm working closely with my neighboring fire chiefs and emergency management directors to revisit that, and I think we're going to have a much better plan, and sort of an outreach from that is addressing what some would call a warming center. The more appropriate term is a personal care site, what that looks like and how those are operated. Those hadn't been fully tested in the way that I think they probably could or should have been, because they're sort of a newer concept that way. And so I think that you'll see a significant improvement in that when we have to deploy them again, because I'm an optimist.
it will happen.
Because it will happen again, but there was opportunity for improvement, absolutely. And that, a lot of that falls on me as the emergency management director.
I guess I would just see it that it's good to have the plan that you're sure will work. We'll be happy with that. But I'm sure, Luke, having the experience of living through the blizzard wherever you were probably helped you in sort of thinking about what this was going to look like.
It was at the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's right. If you were in the Caribbean, good for you. I guess I had a couple of things, or just one thought was, you talked about a variety of nonprofits or volunteer organizations or whatever. I think, to be sure that everybody has that list of who all those people are, who can be called and should be called, probably is another checklist, to be sure that that's there. But of course, I was beginning to think sort of the technology behind all this. I was thinking, gee, but is there an app? Is there a something? Because I guess what I was seeing was also the need to, all these forms and all this stuff that's out there, being sure that everybody's collecting the same information in the same way. And so I'm thinking it's an app, but then of course, if you don't have power, it's sort of like, what do you do? So I guess I would just be, that's one thing I was just kind of trying to process was, what does that look like to be sure that people have the ability to have a centralized collection system, whatever that is, but what happens when there is no electricity? And how does that sort of work? So that was just one thing that came to mind, and I don't know the answer to it, but you'll think of something.
There's a number of programs, but it really, not to belabor this, but EOC stands for Emergency Operations Center, or Evaluate, Operate, Coordinate. And that's really what that space is for, is to get all the players in the room so that information is shared and we're tracking it.
Yep.
And what's going on? What calls are the police responding to for a wire sound? Is the fire department responding? Those are the kind of things that make that really important. And their standardized forms are online, but we have them in paper because we've learned
It will not work.
we've had trouble with the technology. We're continuing to work through some of those technological challenges. Even right now, we're having worked on the town radio system to ensure that the reliability, because again, you need to have the redundancy for those things.
Thanks.
Do you have something, Michael?
No, just a quick, has there been an update on the sheltering at the school? Because I know the generator didn't.
So the short version is issue that occurred at the Nauset Regional High School related to the generator and the heating system has been resolved. That was sort of an oversight, but there is a larger conversation going on countywide of how shelters are operated and where they are located and how they are managed. That is still in the very early stages. There's been some shifts in how that looks. And I expect to come back to this board at some point in the near future, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months, with a better report on that. I don't want to sound like, I just don't have the information. There was some really significant stuff that we need to look at to ensure that the long-term viability of those things. And then sort of what those happen at the regional level as far as, where the regional shelters are, because that regional shelter system has a lot of value from a staffing and coordination standpoint versus each community opening up a shelter of scale, because there are significant staffing and logistical challenges that happen with that, but also let's make sure the town of Orleans is doing what it needs to do and to protect the citizens and visitors. So we're working on that right now, and I think there's going to be some discussion and some potential needs of addressing those things that I'm just not quite there yet.
But the people can feel confident that.
Yes.
that
Oh, there will
issue-
be,
that issue is
yes,
resolved
absolutely,
in
yeah.
The regional
Mhm.
currently.
Yep, the high school, that was sort of it happened, that particular piece affected the Nauset Regional High School because of the new construction. There was basically a programming issue, but a similar thing happened at the Cape Cod Tech related to the stoves wouldn't operate. They have a safety on them when they're on a generator, so they couldn't turn the stoves on. So those are the kind of things that you don't think of until you think of it.
So you need it.
Yeah.
Right, but thank you. I think that.
Lessons learned.
People at ease.
Anybody else? I just have one thing, Chief. And this sort of goes across emergencies and isn't really in your control, but the lack of cell service and communication is consistently a problem with whenever we have these events. And I don't know if that's something we're just going to live with, or is there a fix being figured out somewhere?
I think there's a lot of discussion of that capacity of the cell system, if you will. And I know I've talked to Representative Luddy about it on a number of occasions of trying to address that. During the blizzard, there was significant damage to lots of different levels of communication equipment through all the forms of communication. There was cell tower damage, there were power issues. We had significant radio system issues on both of the radio systems that we use related. So there was some time where we were back to tin cans and string almost. But I really do think that we have to continue to advocate, and that's something that I do on a regular basis, is we've got to address the cell phone coverage and cell phone capacity. We ran into that last year, right around this time, where we had an issue out on Nauset Heights, and we didn't have cell coverage using the cell providers that we did use. We've transitioned a lot of that equipment away to a different provider that has better coverage there at the emergency level, but that doesn't always address the public level. So we've got to continue to work on that.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh. Next, we have committee interviews and appointments. Starting with open space, is Mark Russo here? Have a seat.
Thank you.
So the way this works is you tell us now a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the open space committee.
Thank you. My wife and I bought property 2 years ago, 9 Doan Road. We renovated it. We moved in a year ago, or about a year ago, and full-time residents now. Previously, we lived in Plumpton. I spent 11 years as a Board of Selectmen, 15 years as chair of the Community Preservation Committee, a decade as a board member for the Regional Land Trust, Wildlands Trust. So that sounds like I'm really, really knowledgeable. I do know a little bit along the way from all of that, but in truth, my major strength is sitting through boring meetings along the way.
I love
I actually also
strength.
well understand that my previous town is very different from this one, an agricultural town, rural, a lot of unprotected land, and a town of very modest means, as versus here, where I well understand there's much less open space. When we did projects, they were 150 acres. It seems like here, open space preservation, or one project for what we were, the same amount of money we were spending on for 150 acres along the way. So I really appreciate open space. I appreciate it for the natural beauty, the quality of life. I well understand the protection of resources, particularly on the Cape, water resources, and the recreation value. So I think it's a lot of bang for the dollar when there's something to do. I kind of feel like, as a member of a committee like that, like open space, part of the job is being an ambassador, advocating, educating, and I really enjoy that piece. And then I suppose the last piece, I don't have the deepest pockets in the world, but I am a pretty good fundraiser, and I don't have a particular
Dangerous thing to say.
Yeah, really.
soliciting and asking along the way. I really love multi-funded projects. They're a pain in the neck to put together, but the reward afterward is substantial. Bottom line, I think with open space, the big reward is this tangible, concrete thing, the preserved land that's there forever. You know, I really appreciate that.
Well said.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Other than thank you for.
When can you start?
stepping up. Night.
I made it through without questions.
I can make a motion to get us started if
Let's
you'd
go,
like, Mr.
yeah.
Chair. I would move to appoint Mark Russo as an associate member to the Open Space Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2029.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, and does anybody have any further things they would like to talk about?
Is there anything we should ask you?
No, I'm not revealing.
Okay.
Good to sit before all of you. Thank you.
Fair enough.
Let's just vote you in first. So we've had a motion that's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So welcome, and thank you very much for stepping up, and Molly will take you from here.
Mark, a little packet of material for you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Richard, your turn.
Thank you for this opportunity to meet. I suspect you're interested in why I'd like to join the Affordable Housing Trust Fund
Yes,
Board.
please.
All right. I've had a wonderful opportunity over the past year to serve on the Human Services Advisory Committee. We evaluated and approved 22 grants for FY27. This has offered me a deep dive into the needs of this community, especially its most vulnerable members. I've learned a lot about housing needs, food insecurity, and health concerns. I've called on these organizations and gotten to know their leadership. The key takeaway for me is that all these needs are interrelated, with housing at the very center, a key component. These are our neighbors, the men and women who make Orleans thrive. If we don't do a better job on affordable housing, the quality of life in our incredible town will suffer and inevitably decline. My skills as a potential board member are primarily in the area of financial analysis and credit underwriting. I worked in commercial banking for 25 years, retiring as an executive officer at a mid-sized regional. I've also spent 11 years in trust banking, asset management at the board level. For me, there's actually another touch point or connection, and that's with respect to the local faith community. The Homeless Prevention Council was founded in 1991 as the Interfaith Council for the Homeless. Habitat for Humanity, as I think most people know, began as a ministry as well. I understand this focus. I know how to talk to these people as an ordained Presbyterian minister. I think I've got something to offer. I'd like to help.
Well, thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Kevin.
In your ministry, I'm going to call on you for some help right now. Were you here for public comment?
I was not.
Okay. Then I can't get your assistance. We heard from about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 folks questioning our efforts on advancing affordable housing. It might be worth watching.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, if I can. I'm sure you're aware of our housing plan, and you've
I am.
gone through that. And is there any comments on that you would like to make?
It seemed kind of aggressive to me, and I think that's an important feature of this. I think one establishes aggressive goals, and making sure that people are aware of this plan is important. I attend town meetings. In the last couple of town meetings I've attended, there have been one or more people who get up and say, is there an affordable housing issue in our town? I find that kind of incredible. But until more people grasp this and get involved, we need to keep working on it.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll just say that I've been the liaison to the Human Services Committee, and so I've watched Richard in action, and I think this is a great fit, and thank you for raising your hand.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would be pleased to move that we vote to appoint Richard White as a regular member for the Affordable Housing Trust with a term ending June 30th, 2029.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I know you're already on.
Thank you, Mahon. Okay.
So, Chief, are you coming back up here to lead us through this, or is somebody who is going to
Well, we have
lead the discussion?
Ted and Russell and Paolo. We have Rick Pomeroy here. We'd have him come up.
And just as we're getting set up here, I think, I don't know what everybody else's expectation for tonight is, but our interest tonight is solely on materials and not on color or other sort of design features. And I just want to make sure that we try to keep our discussion tonight focused there rather than let it wander to all the other things that people might like to talk about.
Great. You want to add anything, Rick?
Well, good evening.
Evening.
Richard Pomeroy, the town's owner's project manager. We have Ted here and Paulo here. Is Paulo with us?
He should be. He
Okay.
might be
They
joining
declined
now.
to join, but as long as they accept, they'll be let in.
So we have Ted Galante here from the Galante Architectural
here.
Studio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone.
And so why don't we just get right into the presentation and we can go for the Q&A afterwards.
That makes a lot of sense. So good evening, and I agree. I think the idea here, we're gonna show 3 design options, and maybe just a hint of a 4th. But the point is, we have modified the building based on some public comment, really the size and scale and some material changes. And let me just say that at the outset, that I think the way the chairman has said as well, the colors are fungible, right? The colors can be worked out with the Architectural Review Board. There's a few more steps that will be taken, but what we really need confirmation on for a number of reasons, is what materials, that confirm the site plan, that everybody's in agreement with that, and the floor plan, which I think the fire chief is in agreement with, and then really that this is the size, shape, massing of the building, and what materials we're working with. In order to move the project forward, we need to go through those things. So I'll just click through, I'll ask someone to click through quickly, but we're looking at the public safety building. We're gonna talk about the site plan quick, the building plans quick, some precedents and 3D material renderings, material comparison discussion, and then some possible color options. So site plan quickly, Eldridge Parkway along the bottom. We have the building located with the fire trucks leaving through the white space, which is the apparatus bay, and the apron. Along the left side, there's an entrance to the building for people. We're separating people from emergency vehicles for safety reasons. There's parking along the left side, which is the west side, and then parking in the rear. There are a few emergency vehicles leaving in the rear of the building and going around on the east side for which is really the kind of the existing lane that the fire department uses currently. There's a small outbuilding in the back with that dotted line is solar panels, and then there's a solar canopy that passes along that side of the building. On the building, there are solar panels on both the gable roof portion and the flat roof portion. So in order to make the building net zero, that's the solar array that we are proposing. Next slide, please. So I won't go through the details of this. We could get really lost in the weeds here, but basically the area in red is what's known as the hot zone. The area in green is the clean zone, the cold zone, living quarters, offices. The red is the transition, the yellow is the transition between the two for safety. That's the first floor plan. The second floor plan is the next slide, and it's very similar. The red is really a double height area with just a mezzanine, and then the green zone is where all the offices will be. Excuse me, next slide. That's the roof plan, really just locating mechanical equipment and photovoltaic panels and such. So there are three options. We called this one clapboard because it's covered with clapboard. Whether there'll be actual clapboard or composite material is yet to be determined. We have a long path to go through to confirm the final material, but a clapboard or composite panel siding is the goal. There are different qualities of composite panels. We can talk about that. But the idea is to make it very Cape style looking by using clapboard. And in fact, we use clapboard on all three options that we're going to talk about. In this case, next slide, please. We use clapboard on the living quarters side, which is the left side of the slide, with the black roof, the photovoltaic panels up there. And we use clapboard on the right-hand side, which is the apparatus bay side, and that is one option. And then in between, there's a little brick kind of separator to keep the massing of the building down. And then the tower in the back is also brick. So it's a couple of images of this we can talk about. And I'll just state it again. The red doors can be black. The black doors can be green. We can do any color that we want to do, right? So this is just to get the idea across of the form, shape, size, that thing. We had a trellis wrapping around the building, or at least on the left-hand side. We've changed that to a farmer's porch. There was a lot of discussion about that, and the public was really interested in that. So we provided a farmer's porch. We've also made sure that it's very clapboard and Cape Cod style house looking. So that's what this is an image of. Next slide. Around the side, we see more of the farmer's porch. Excuse my voice. And then if we continue around, the next slide is the side of this is again the clapboard on the apparatus bay piece, and then the masonry, the brick on the tower piece in the back, the gray gray piece in the back. Next slide, please. The rear of the building, which is really the staff entrance, or people coming in for training meetings, would see this portion of the building, but again, it's clapboard on the two main volumes and then brick on the other two smaller volumes. Next slide, please. The outbuilding, we're also, in this case, proposing in clapboard, but that's, again, we can discuss that further. That's not really seen from the street very much. So that's the clapboard version. The next one is clapboard on the living quarters and gray brick on the apparatus bay. Next slide. And we're trying to unify the colors here, keep the building so that the gray brick picks up on the gray clapboard on the left-hand side. The living quarters pretty much stays the same as we showed it on the previous version, but there's a little stone separator between the two volumes where the ambulance would be. Yes, thank you. And then the gray brick is where the apparatus bay would be. Masonry is the most durable material for a building like this, and that's why we're showing it. Again, the doors can be painted. That's a smaller detail. Next slide. Same view from the street. Very Cape style with a clapboard siding and the farmer's porch wrapping around. The entrance is very clear. It's announced with a gable that opens up toward the street. Next slide. The side of the building facing the Nauset Field is a masonry side. There's some windows punched in there. We probably would articulate the masonry a little bit. We didn't. The renderings take quite a bit to do, but we would have some details to work out on some of these pieces. Next slide. That's again from the staff entrance and visitors that park in the rear of the building. Next slide. Outbuilding in this case is shown as masonry because we believe it's more durable. Next slide. The third option we're really not talking about because the building committee voted 5-4 in support of the version that has the gray brick on one side and the clapboard on the other side. But we wanted to just show the red brick. We wanted to show the select board and whomever public is watching what we presented to the building committee and what their feedback was. And so this one, if you want to just click through quickly, is the red brick on the right-hand side. But that, as I understand it from the building committee, this one is not an option that is being considered because the red brick was not overly well received by the public. And so it's really the leading candidate from a building committee vote is the gray brick on one side with the clapboard on the other side. Now, there's been some discussion about materials, their quality, the durability, the options, etc. And so if you recall, there was a time where we were looking at different roof lines and we were using dollar signs to talk about the cost of things. And there's been a discussion about the standing seam metal roof versus asphalt shingles. One of the things that we're trying to do here is spend your money wisely, not just immediate first cost, but for 75 or 100 years. And so we're trying to get this fire rescue station problem behind the town so that they really don't have to concern themselves with it again for a generation or more. And so on the left-hand side of this image is a standing seam roof with photovoltaic panels, solar panels. And the way to attach solar panels to a standing seam metal roof is that if the seam is vertical, there's a clamp that goes on top and grabs that seam. And so the roof is designed to hold that. The clamp clamps on and the solar panels sit on top. There are no penetrations that go through the roof. So the building envelope is preserved. So with a standing seam metal roof, you're getting a very strong, durable roof, and you're not puncturing it, you're clamping onto it, which it's designed to do. And so there's a slightly higher initial cost, more like a 40 to 70 year kind of lifespan for standing seam metal roof. Resists storms, it's heat reflective, and it's the right sort of there's no maintenance, it's very low maintenance. For an asphalt shingle roof, which was one of the questions, the initial costs are slightly lower, but you're really looking at a 15 to 25 year roof, which is not the lifespan that we want to put on a building like this. Storm damage, moderate. It absorbs heat, so it's not great from that environmental perspective. And it has moderate to high maintenance, we say, because it would have to be changed and replaced. But more importantly, the solar panel system, because we're making a net zero building, the solar panel system that has to be attached to the roof penetrates the roof, right? And so we're now going to put however many holes, 100 holes, on each side of each roof, and that doesn't feel like the best strategy for a project like this. So we are recommending the standing seam metal roof for the long-term durability, the clamping of the solar panel system, not causing potential future leaks by penetrating it with asphalt shingles. Next slide. There was another discussion about brick veneer versus some kind of composite or clapboard siding. And so on the left-hand side, we have something that says CMU insulated brick veneer, and then the right-hand side, CMU insulated cladding. Brick veneer is very obvious what it is. CMU is concrete masonry units. That's what the interior of the apparatus bay would be made out of. It's a super durable material, no maintenance, lasts forever. Rigid insulation goes on top of that on the outside, and then a brick veneer goes on top of that. On the right-hand side, we have the same CMU insulation, and then a fastening system, and then a clapboard or composite material goes on the outside of that. Same idea. The initial costs for a brick veneer are a little higher than they would be for a cladding system. The brick veneer will last for 50 to 100 years. That's why you drive into any New England town and you see buildings from the 1800s, and they are still there because they're old mill buildings. They're brick buildings, and they last for a long time. The clapboard on the other side, or the composite material, has a 20 to 30 year lifespan. 30 is a long lifespan in that thing. They're more like a 20-year lifespan, but 20 to 30, depending on how much abuse. Impact resistance is something we think a lot about in public safety. A brick veneer building has a very high impact resistance. It is brick, right? Don't drive into a brick wall. We've all heard that before, right? Cladding, either wood or composite, has a very low impact resistance. And on a public safety building where people are leaving in a hurry, under duress, we want the building to be impact resistant and durable. And so that version has a very low impact resistance. We think that the brick we know that the brick is very, if it were hit and damaged, it is repairable in a way that can match the rest of the material and be a long-lasting repair. We've done this ourselves. We're currently rebuilding major portions of the Cambridge Fire Headquarters. That is an all masonry building, and one cannot see where we put the new brick, right? If it's done carefully and done correctly, it is a thorough, complete, and well done finish. As opposed to, and brick doesn't fade or change color or warp or what have you. The cladding, on the other hand, has the capacity to warp, will fade, will change color over time, and so repairing something that was hit by a vehicle with the cladding will show up, right? It will be visual and exposed and never look quite the same. Unless the building is painted, which then requires maintenance. And so we believe that the brick veneer is the approach, the best approach here. Now, I said that both brick veneer and standing seam siding are more expensive first costs. Let me just be clear. Those are both included in the budget. We are not increasing the cost. The budget currently carries the products that we believe are the best solution for the town of Orleans. So we're not increasing the cost whatsoever. We're changing to the clapboard. The numbers are sort of insignificant in the overall picture because we still have to build the building and insulate it and clad it in some way. But just to be clear, we're not adding any cost here. Next slide, please. So there we have it. We have the clapboard with kind of a 20-year lifespan, less durable, repairs are harder to conceal. The clapboard and gray brick, 100-year lifespan, more durable, repairs are easy to conceal, and then we don't even need to talk about the third one. And so that's where we are, and where we're hoping the select board can provide us clear definition and vote on one of these options. And just as a Steve Jobs, but wait, there's more moment, if you can click to this slide. Between Monday and today, our team of deftly adept, capable people, smarter than me, can run computer programs very well. Russell and Tina and Paolo, Michael Palladay, all working on the project, generated this render, which is really all of the gray, all of the materials in gray, because there was a discussion about maybe there was a concern, maybe there are too many materials. And so this is just an example of, we need a decision on the materials, and we can modify the colors later. So maybe if we go back 2 slides, and then please ask questions, or we can talk.
Let me just get to a microphone.
I hope that was clear enough.
Yes, I think it was. Thank you. So in terms of process tonight, I did tell people if they had interest in speaking to this, they could choose this time of the meeting rather than public comment. So I would just ask that anybody who wants to speak to it follow the same rules as the public comment, which is 3 minutes and a one shot. So David, please.
Good evening, David Little. I'm the chair of the Fire Rescue Building Committee, of which I can say that 7 of our 9 members are in the audience tonight, which is well attended by the committee. I think that indicates their interest and concern of what's going to be happening this evening. So I just wanted to bring the select board up to speed with respect to the public comment. I mean, you had some interesting public comment at the beginning of the meeting tonight. I think it's only fair that you hear what the public has said about this project so far. So I provided you with kind of a snapshot from our 7/16 meeting when we were reviewing a red brick apparatus bay with clapboard headquarters. The public comments were as follows. 6 did not like the use of brick. 1 liked the design. 1 preferred a unified look. 1 said the building should be softer and blend in. We also solicited online comments, and the online comments were as follows. 5 did not like the use of brick. 2 liked the design. 1 disliked the design. 1 didn't like the use of varied exterior materials. 1 wanted to see a united exterior design. 1 wanted to see the use of traditional materials, and 1 said the design did not blend in with the local architecture and the community. And then Ted Galante and his team put together the 3 options that he presented tonight to you. And during public comment at our meeting on Monday, 5 people spoke in favor of option 1, at which time I thought it was fairly apparent that that was the preferable option with the people in the audience, and I asked if there was anyone in the audience who did not like option 1, and there was silence. So there was a lot of discussion. The Fire Rescue Committee, the 9 members, 4 chose option 1, and 5 chose option 2. So I just think, I think from my perspective as the chair, I base my concerns and votes and things on what the general public that live in the town want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now's your chance. Anybody who wants to speak? Scott, coming up.
Scott Zanke, Doan Road. The charge is for at least a 50-year building. If we're looking at a 20-year lifespan, we're not doing what the charge included. If we're building a 20-year municipal building, that's a far cry from when it's needed in emergencies. This could act as a shelter at some point in time. We don't know. But if we're building a building that's only going to last 20 years before we're putting money back into it, a few of us may still be here and catch the wrath for only building a cheap building. We've got $55 million to work with, the largest project in this town, and it better last over 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. Board members, who wants to lead us off?
You know, as a member of the committee, Meph, I can just, you know, make note of the fact that we did have a couple of public hearings to deal with the design. I think as David indicated, that first meeting on July 16th, I think we were presented with the red brick option. And I think Ted, we've had this conversation already, Ted had talked about, you know, making a statement. This was a statement building in town, it was an important building in town and whatnot. And I think the takeaway from that first meeting was that the public really didn't want a statement building. We didn't need a statement building. We needed something that would fit in more with the neighborhood and the environment and Cape Cod, Orleans, and whatnot. So I think that that's why we saw at the next meeting, the red brick was still, yeah, it's out there. There was still some people that liked it, but the emphasis was put on having more of a monochromatic look to the building with a blending of whether it was all clapboard or shingle style composite materials, or whether it was a combination of those materials and brick that was the same color. Not the bright red, not the standout, but something that would blend in and fit. I think we did have a couple of discussions where we talked about trim on the building and how that makes things appear. You know, this rendering up here has white trim. The last picture that was shown, the trim was gray, kind of match. So there's a lot of iterations that can go on. And I think we agreed that whether it's red doors or black doors or green doors or blue doors or whatever it might be, that's a discussion for a later date. But what we're looking at right now is the materials and what makes the most sense for the durability of the building and the need of the building. And so, you know, our discussions about standing metal seam roof versus asphalt, and our discussions about the CMU with brick veneer versus CMU with composite materials on the outside to mimic clapboards or shingles. That's what we need to resolve tonight, is what materials, so that then we can look at moving the design forward. We need to know what the materials are so that we can then plan on heat loss, we can plan on energy efficiency, we can plan on all the things that were part of the charge of making this building, you know, as Scott alluded to, a 50-year building or more, of it being net zero. All those things, you know, stem from what we can do tonight is choose the materials and let the architects and the engineers go forward. So color isn't the issue. It shouldn't be the issue tonight. It's just strictly the materials and where we want to go with this.
Thank you, Mark. Next, Michael.
Want me to go around?
Sure.
Thank you to the architects and the committee. I've attended both meetings that you guys had. And I guess my comments were still, I gave them before the first meeting, where, you know, aesthetically, I like more of a unified approach. I like the option one. I like the clapboard on the whole project. I understand, these numbers, 20 years, depending if you're using composite. I'm not sure how it can be 100 years if the majority of the project, even in option 2, is clapboard. You know, because the clapboard we're saying is 20 years. So that confuses me a little bit. I agree with the CMU, both of it, the structure of the building is going to last either way, no matter what option we choose. I like the more monochromatic, you know, my favorite public building I've seen recently is the Provincetown Police Station. I think they did an amazing job with that aesthetically, where it really blends in with the environment and you almost don't even see it now. So I think that's very important. I know we're just doing materials tonight, and I hope when we do colors and landscaping, there's a little bit more development too with the landscaping. Is there gonna be a flagpole there? What's the signage gonna be? And I know you guys will work on that. And so I guess for me, I appreciate all the work that's done. This is not easy decisions. I appreciate the committee and even David bringing us up all this additional information. But I would go for the metal seamed roof and a clapboard unified look. I love the last option that you showed. If you could pull that up, whoever's doing the clicker. And I know we're not doing color, but this is more, maybe a lighter version, and we did put it in, so if we're looking there, you know, we weren't gonna do colors, but we are actually adding it to the presentation. So it's hard not to ignore, you know, why we added this then.
Yeah, I know, Mark, I agree with you, and I put it there because I wanted to let everyone know that the colors are fungible. I agree, lighter might be better, but I didn't want to distract the committee with color, other than to say, we will continue to revisit the color, but I've got to get engineers to decide.
David, I don't think that's quite right, but if you want to say something, go ahead.
Should I finish? Okay.
This was not presented to the building committee on Monday, and it should have been presented to the building committee if it's going to be reviewed by you tonight. Thank you.
So I mean, when I watched the meeting, there were comments, I think, one of the members did talk about a lighter color, lighter colors disappearing more into the environment, so. I guess those are my comments. I appreciate these 100-year, 50-year buildings, but with all due respect, we have a building now of 40 years. The lifespan of buildings is, you know, we went 40 years. As we go another 20 years, things are changing at an exponential pace. To think we're going to have buildings the same in 50 years, I just don't think is realistic in this world. The amount of things that are gonna change. So just having the skin, something to be concerned about, I'm not that worried about it, so.
Thank you, Michael. Mary or Kevin?
I guess I would say I am enamored with the second option. I will, with the clapboard and gray brick. Yes, I did like the final picture that was shown. I'm certainly swayed by the idea of the longevity of the materials as being an integral part. I guess I would say that as much as I do think, regardless of sort of the colors, this is a statement building. It is going to be a statement building because it's a big building and because it is the fire department and the fire and rescue department. So there is a lot to be said for it can be elegant does not have to be gaudy to be a statement building. I think this is a statement building in terms of the amount of time and energy and care that we are putting into having this be the building that we want. So I guess that's one thing I would say, but I would be going for the second option at this point.
So I've got a few. One is, and Ted, I think you said at the outset, you also want our vote to confirm the site plan floor plan, because you feel that's been run through committee, chief feels that's good, and I'm comfortable with that. You also really want us to just focus on these two options. The only question I've got is, can I probe a little bit more what's in the outbuilding? Because everything you've presented so far, and I've watched the committee meetings,
is uniformity. So the outbuilding is going to be skinned and roofed and treated very identical to the main fire rescue. And I just have to ask, is that necessary? You've said, I think just today, and even during the presentation the other night, it won't be seen. So to me, you know, if it's not going to be seen, then why do we have to dress it up so much?
It's a fair question. We've done outbuildings in many facilities, for many facilities, and we often do them in a less expensive material. You know, in Northbridge, we have a masonry building with zinc siding, and again, another 100-year material fire station, and the outbuilding is covered with an inexpensive corrugated metal panel. We're doing a similar one in Salem, New Hampshire right now for the police department, and it's a precast concrete building with a corrugated metal panel. And so we often do them as less expensive buildings. So that answers, so we could do the same thing here. We can talk about doing that for sure. I guess but to answer your first part of your question, what's in the building, there are vehicles that are needed that are not needed as frequently, and the chief can probably speak to more details of this. Are not needed as frequently as some of the other frontline vehicles, and the temperature of the building is kept much lower, et cetera. It's not an occupied portion of the building. There's limited plumbing, maybe a hose, but no restroom, for example, that sort of thing.
So it is going to have some space conditioning in it?
Yes, well, we have to keep the vehicles above a certain temperature, but
Okay.
yes.
So, Mr. Chair, I would just say, again, if anybody was walking around anywhere on Cape Cod on Monday, realize this is a humid environment. This is a coastal environment. This is a fire rescue station, as Mary said. You know, I don't want us to put 100% clapboard around this building. I really do like the clap and brick for the environment we live in, for the longevity that we get. And the last thing Ted said was the cincher for me, is it's still within the not-to-exceed budget that we went to town meeting. With that said, option 2 is really what I'd like to go.
Before I take my turn, I just wanted to ask one question, and that is, I've been told that the thermal performance of the brick facade is better than the clapboard siding. Is that, and if that's true, how big a difference is that?
It is a moderate difference. We didn't raise it because it is because masonry is 3.5 inches thick and clapboard is, you know, an inch or less, much less in fact. But the actual number is like 0.8, and it's not a significant piece, right? We have to meet the energy code. We have to insulate the building and meet a certain thermal criteria. But it's not radically different, is what I'll say. It would, if I were building out of my house, I would put brick, because it does have a little bit difference, not a major difference.
So with that said, the points that have been important to me in this process is what you're calling the unified look or the monochromatic facade. I thought that was the biggest aesthetic issue that I had, and so whether we choose clapboard or brick, we're still going to get a unified look at the front. I've also been told that if you stand 50 feet away, it's going to be kind of hard for the naked eye to tell the difference. So my first reaction when I hear a question like this is to go for the clapboard, because that's clearly the more traditional Cape Cod. But I think that the advantages to the brick, long-lasting, and to whatever minor thermal performance is better, that's the way I would go without a great deal of, I wouldn't be heartbroken if it ended up being clapboard, but I would tonight vote for the brick. And also easily the metal roof. That's for a variety of reasons, so. That's it for me. Go ahead, Mark.
I just wondered if you want to hear from our project manager on what his thoughts might be,
Yeah.
one way or the other on this, too.
Please.
Thank you. I prefer the hybrid version as well. That's the clapboard and the brick. The durability and the usefulness and longevity of the brick. It is, and I think this, I enjoyed the statement from one of your members that said this is going to be a statement property just because it's a fire station. And there's ways to make it subtle, but it is a municipal facility, and the brick does carry the municipal seal with it. So that's my preference.
Okay. In terms of a motion here, I think if my memory of this conversation goes, there was more support for the brick than for the clapboard, and so I think if we want to do a motion, that should probably be the one that gets made.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to take a stab at it. On behalf of the Select Board, with thanks to the Building Committee, I would move that we confirm the site and floor plan as presented today, and the siding, we go with option 2, which is clapboard brick, with the desire to have a uniform or mono look.
And a metal roof.
And a metal roof.
Second.
Okay, that motion is made and seconded. Is there further discussion that we'd like to have? Hearing none, then call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So 4 to 1. Does that take care of our business tonight?
It does.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. I think it does. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Those eyeballs. It was.
You should be mentally prepared for that.
Hey, I think you're going to be next here. And don't be in a rush. We're waiting for our board to merge.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jay Stradell. I'm board chair of the Orleans Historical Society, or also known as the Centers for Culture and History in Orleans. Just have a few comments tonight ahead of this discussion, but I think most everybody's aware of our efforts to preserve the CG 36-500 lifeboat in a structure that will protect it permanently indoors from the elements and allow its story to be told year-round instead of just at Rock Harbor in the summertime. We're in the process of trying to raise $4 million for this project in total. And key to this is a series of grants that we're applying for. One in particular is with the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism, which is also part of the Destination Development Capital Grant. This is a significant grant, could represent as much as 18% of our total $4 million ask, and maybe up to close to a third of our actual construction cost, because the total $4 million includes more than just the construction. It's the completion of the museum and other pieces. So this is not an insignificant grant that we're applying for, and we have been asked by the state to try and get some letters of support from key opinion leaders and community leaders, and also others who might be supportive. So we've reached out to several different groups, including the Select Board, and that's the reason for the vote today. The idea of having the Select Board say in support of our effort to preserve the 36-500, I think is a significant statement that we can use not only for this grant, but other grants that we might apply for, that clearly shows that the concept is understood and supported by the Select Board. So, oh, and one other thing I might just announce, and it's very interesting. Within the last hour, One of the other groups we approached was the Barnstable Assembly of Delegates. They just voted within the last hour to unanimously do a letter similar to this for us. So with that,
Thank you, Jay.
Leave it to
And
you.
you all you have the letter there in front of you. Does anybody want to speak or ask questions about this?
I'm in support.
Yeah, I think,
Make a motion if you want for discussion.
sure, go ahead, yep.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to support the letter in our packet supporting the CG 36500 project.
Second.
Okay, made and seconded. Anybody have anything further to say?
Let's do it.
I think, just, for me personally, I couldn't, express greater support for this project. I think if this can happen, it would be great for the town of Orleans. So, having said that, all in favor?
Aye.
thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who sends that letter out? Do you? Do we sign it and give it to you?
That would be preferable if you would.
Signed by
because
you.
we can include it
I think
in-
I sign it, and I've got it here.
Sign it already?
I don't think I signed it yet, but I've got it right here.
Yeah, we've got to finish the application this week, so it'd be great to have it.
I may just have a copy here, though. Is this,
No, yeah, there's two there, but one of them is yours to sign.
oh, one is Amanda and one is me, okay. Is it okay for me to give him your letter too, Amanda?
Molly will send electronic copies, Jay can do it.
Thank you, Matt.
And best of luck.
Thank you all very much. We're going for it.
Good.
All right.
Who made this agenda anyways?
After that, chair.
Is there another page?
It goes on and on. Yeah, it's a three-pager tonight.
So now, have we reached Darren? I think we have. So, is this you, Mark, or, take this, or Darren is?
It's Darren.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Darren.
Good evening. Tonight, you have, Select Board has a number of Select Board policy letters related to our finance department, our town's finances that has been reviewed by your subcommittee and now is ready for review and approval tonight. Of those policies, you have the debt policy, you have the capital improvement plan and capital budget policy, you have the municipal property insurance, self-insurance funding policy, the general operating reserve policy, acceptance of equipment and tangible personal property policy, use of ambulance reserve policy, ambulance billing procedures, and the enterprise fund policy. The select board met on the 24th and the subcommittee met on July 15th as well, and considered these letters. One of the things that did come from it is that select board had consensus to hold off on some of the potential changes in terms of an off-ramp to the tax levy subsidy to the enterprise fund. So you will see some, that language has been taken out. I will tell you that select board member Walker has brought some things to my attention about that specific policy. And so, and I have sent those to her, and so she has that to speak to if, in terms of any corrections final corrections we can make to the enterprise fund policy. There is an intent to come back at a later date prior to the budget kickoff and provide an analysis of the enterprise funds and where they stand from both a sustainability perspective and from a policy perspective for future select board discussion and action. And we have some discussions about, we have some discussions about, so if you could, I mean, I'm here for any questions you might have.
So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I think using the sheet that we got, we were talking about E2, E3, E5, E6, E7, not E8 and not E9, but then E10 and E11. Does that compute, Mark?
What it looks like here.
So, are there any questions or thoughts about any of those policies?
I think the only thing was the 2 points that I sent to Darren around enterprise funds. So it was just that I found there were a couple of things that were just a little confusing. So he sent me some changes that would be made. So we may want to hold off on the enterprise fund ones until you can insert those into people's packets. Do you want to do it that way or just describe it?
I can put those on, I can maybe put those on the board, or I can read those.
Okay.
If you would want me to. I mean, you have.
Yeah,
you
go
also
ahead,
have
Darren,
them-
yeah, go ahead.
You have them in your email too, Select Board Member Walker too, if you wanted to do that. I mean, you could specify the location of change and then what I'm recommending for the
Yeah,
change.
that'll take me a while.
That's fine. Okay.
So, yeah, I have to find those again.
In
'cause
the
I did
enterprise
this.
fund, which is, the enterprise fund is, I think it's all the way at the bottom of the,
Find it. These enterprise fund ones, yeah, where I knows where I did it with them.
yeah, it's page 74 of your packet, is where you find select board, policy letter E11, enterprise fund policy. In that, you will find comments, so the concerns that, Select Board Member Walker talked about was that there was, at year end, in the policy, that at year end, each enterprise fund performance is measured in terms of positive surplus or negative deficit operations. The surplus or deficit closes to retained earnings, which are retained in each enterprise fund. I think it's in your page 19 of 26 in the policy packet itself. So to respond to that, the retained earnings sentence is not technically wrong, just it's kind of awkwardly written.
Sorry,
And so,
laugh.
the phrase positive surplus or negative deficit operations reads like there may be a typo because operations is being used as the object of the sentence. What the policy is trying to say is that at the end of the fiscal year, each enterprise fund either has an operating surplus or an operating deficit, and that the result closes to retained earnings. So the fix is to replace that paragraph with, at year end, each enterprise fund's financial results are measured as either an operating surplus or an operating deficit. Any surplus or deficit closes to the fund's retained earnings balance. Certified retained earnings remain with the applicable enterprise fund and may be appropriate only for expenditures related to the enterprise fund as allowed by law. And I can make those changes.
Makes sense, yeah.
So, Mr. Darren, I was having trouble finding this or following you. So you're talking under the section 3 retained earnings and working capital paragraph?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
My apologies. And then the other piece was under the wastewater operations paragraph, underneath that specific one, there was a comment about shall
It was shall be self-supporting or something like that,
yeah,
right?
be self-supporting, and that was the comment that we had discussed to make for future discussion, because we're talking about having a conversation about the sustainability of the enterprise funds in the future. So the change to that paragraph would be wastewater operations, capital costs, and debt service may be supported by a combination of user fees, betterments, grants, subsidies, certified retained earnings, the special purpose water stabilization fund, debt exclusions, taxation, and other lawful sources as authorized through the annual budget, capital planning, town meeting, and applicable laws. There isn't a shall requirement in there. It's just those are the ones that would be contributing to the funding of that enterprise fund until we could go back and have a more refined discussion.
So, Mr. Chair, can I ask a question on that?
Please.
So Darren, on that one, does
Yeah.
that lose the way the wastewater debt is viewed as no longer, it would then become town debt? Because what you described to us in the past was, as long as we could match the special purpose stabilization fund and the enterprise to supporting debt, then that's not treated in our debt calculation. So does this change affect that?
Let me think about that for a second. It's a good point. That may need to go, that may have been the reason why we put the shall language in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I may need to come back to you on that one. May pull that one and just confirm, but it was a good question that was brought up by Select Board Walker.
Yeah, no, I think I was just trying, because it was, the two above it were saying, you know, can or will or supposed to be or whatever, and then it was, the next one was shall, yet it says we're gonna be putting we have the ability to use general fund monies if need be. I mean, that was sort of, or we're still in the process of making sure it all works, right? So I guess my question was, was the question of, is it, because it's not enterprise, it is still general fund debt, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you can go to the tax rate, yes, you can go to the assessed value or your regular debt service fund to do it. So that's just my reading it as the difference between a revenue bond versus a GO bond. That was all, but again, that's a question, that was my question.
I just will say, Mr. Chair, I liked Darren's explanation when we did this review, that this can be treated for accounting purposes, for state, percentages to show this debt is parked and separate. I think this change will expose us, and you might want to just say, let's park E11 right now and let Darren cogitate some more.
Should we do that?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
And I do want to make the point, and I appreciate you guys reviewed this. I still feel there needs to be a trigger in there that we review these enterprise funds annually and the subsidies that come from the general fund. Whether we're going to off-road, whether we decide to make changes or not, the philosophy in my mind of enterprise funds was to be able to analyze them, and that's why we did it. And to just kind of not analyze subsidies that we do from taxpayers' dollars, I just don't think we're living up to our obligation to be able to say, maybe we're going to move it 5%, maybe we're going to move it 3%, maybe we're going to leave it alone and keep the same percentage as it is. But I think the public will want to, these are our biggest subsidies that we do out of the general fund. To kind of not address it annually is, again, in my opinion, definitely against the philosophy of why we set up enterprise funds in the first place. So I'll leave it at that. If we're
Well, we're going to not vote on this tonight anyways, yeah.
I just wanted to get my comments, and I do appreciate that you guys, are making your suggestion from the working group or whatever. Thank you.
So if we pull the enterprise fund E11 out of this group, is everybody okay with E1, the other?
All the others, debt. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am.
So I would love a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go right ahead.
I'm happy to move that we approve the amendments to the Select Board policies, including the debt policy, Section E, to fiscal planning policies, E2, E3, E5, E6, E7, E10, not E11, and then the Section F, licenses and fees, F4, F6, and F11.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a quick one. If people are wondering the gap in numbering, it's because we are coming from older policies, some of which are archived, some of which are combined, so we are just dealing with different numbering.
Are we gonna change the number, Mark, that it doesn't have those gaps? I mean, can we do that in this? No,
I don't think it needs our vote.
I
It doesn't
think,
need our
I
vote.
think what we're gonna do is reformat all of it and then have you just vote on the final thing.
Right.
Then we're done.
I think you make
And
a
I
good
can't
point,
wait for
'cause
that
you know there's
moment.
gonna be a bunch of questions, Kevin. What's missing here?
We'll need a roadmap.
So I think we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0.
Good work,
You're
Darren.
almost home, Darren.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So let's see if I can find my agenda again.
Human Services.
Susan, I think you're up, so while I'm hunting you. um,
I could read it for you, Mr. Chair.
Here, no, I've got it. So, we are trying to vote tonight on the changes to the Human Services Advisory Committee charge, which, do you have some things you would like to say about that, Susan?
Yes, I appreciate that we have edited this, and I think it more, updates the kind of definitions that we wanted to put in about what human services are. And I have one suggested amendment. We had added at the very end that, and I think the idea was to get all of the committee's charges to look more similar. And it said the committee shall meet as necessary, but not less than quarterly to fulfill this charge. Unfortunately, we don't meet quarterly. We meet when there are applications. And so I was suggesting that maybe for our committee, it would say the committee shall meet as necessary, but must meet at least 4 times a year, if you want to say that. Is that okay, Mark?
Sounds good to me.
Is everybody else okay with that?
Good to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I appreciate you doing this, and thank you very much.
And thank you for that. Anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the Human Services charge that's in our packet, making the change that was just mentioned about not requiring to meet quarterly, but 4 times a year.
And second. So motion's made and seconded. Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now you can get on with your life, Susan.
Thanks for hanging out.
So Mark, you want to tell us about our November
Yes,
town meeting?
Yes, of course. Now that we're in the midst of planning for this meeting with a date of November 18th, we, shortly after, well, the next day after your last meeting, went to our staff meeting. Originally, we had planned for the 16th. At the meeting, we had moved it to the 18th to avoid interfering with One Cape, and found out that our town clerk and our assistant town clerk are not available on the 18th, and therefore, we need to revote the date of town meeting. So I would suggest the 16th. We've confirmed that we have the town clerk and the moderator. So that's what I'd offer to you.
Mr. Chair, I would
Yeah, please.
make a motion to reconsider the town meeting vote to Monday, November 16th.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda. Anybody want to
Mr. Chair, I
take
would
us home?
move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I just have one comment
Okay.
here, and on C and D, and I know we've talked to at least one of these, but the single-use plastics on town property, even if they're events, I'm not sure where we stand. I know it's in our environmental policy, but it's not posted yet, but we did discuss with at least the outermost when they came in, and they do not use single-use plastics at their event. I don't want these to go by another, because we haven't gotten these policies published. It's our wish that we would rather not use unless it's an emergency or there's something that can't be done. And I think we need to kind of stick with that as a community. So,
So this motion's been made and seconded. If we want to delve into the single-use plastics issue for these, can we vote the consent agenda and then follow up with them?
Are you suggesting you want to put that as a amendment to the motion?
Yes. Or at least, I mean, we've made it as a policy.
Well, let me
We
just
haven't
let me just
published
check
it.
the language.
So, on town property.
This is for the.
I guess my question could be, if we just vote this, we can still advise them that the town policy is no single-use plastics. And
Unless an exception is
accept them to follow that.
I just don't want us to have this policy published before these events and then find out we didn't advise them and approve it with that knowledge, and then somebody says, well, you didn't tell me, when, I don't want anything slipping through the cracks. We need to endeavor to follow what.
But the policy, I'm sorry, just the policy is for no single-use no single-use plastics on town land.
And both of these are on.
And both these, okay, you're right, because it's just had
I
one.
mean, really, it's single-use utensils, and however we want to look at it.
I don't see that in here, but I know we talked about doing that for the special events policy. There's conversation in the purchasing, for the town's purchasing policy, about not purchasing single-use products. There's no reference to town properties not allowing events. So Amanda and I just spoke about this week, about including that in the special events policy that we're bringing to you all.
It's not in effect now.
It's not currently in a policy.
So what happens when we get to that in August?
What, get to what, I'm sorry?
The special events policy that maybe the board will or will not, I mean.
Yeah, no, we're gonna, in that draft, that language is gonna be a part of that.
Right, but
But we're approving something now contingent on whether the policy happens later. I mean, that's where I
I
would
mean,
just make an
I'm
adjustment.
just reporting to you that it's not currently in your policy. So if you'd like to do that here, then you may.
So, if we want to do, I think, we don't have a policy, we have no guarantee that that policy is going to pass, so I think voting something tonight, subject to something that may or may not happen, is probably not the best way to do it, but I would think that we could still talk with them and express our expectation that they.
encourage them.
Yeah.
Well, we did, when they came in to ask for the date. But, yeah, okay, however you want to handle it, but I don't want, I think it would be a shame if this is what the town staff is suggesting we do in events policy, and because of timing, be it a month, we don't do it or follow it, that philosophy doesn't make sense with me. We either get behind this or not. But
I think.
I don't want to not approve these tonight. I would like to approve them tonight, of course. I just would like to make sure when the events happen, they're in line with what our belief of a policy will be. And maybe it won't, maybe it'll go, maybe some select board members won't pass. I hope it does, and I hope staff brings it to us as soon as possible, because we're doing a lot of things on single-use plastic to the community
I think, speaking for myself, I'll certainly be supporting a single-use plastics policy, but I think for the purposes of tonight, we're probably at a point where the policy's not in effect, so asking them to,
I think we can still ask.
as a request, yeah, I think that's
So
fine.
I think if we vote this tonight as is, we continue to make it clear. And I think, I know the Outermost Festival people, when that was being put together, especially a couple of years ago with Jack Johnson coming, because Jack Johnson is like a huge advocate of no plastics and whatnot. And that was part of their planning and has continued to be part of their planning. I think we can talk to the chamber about what they do at the library as well and encourage them to go that same route. I think they're amenable to that, obviously. So let's do the policy tonight. When the new one comes in for events in August, we can vote that. I don't think anybody will have a problem between the chamber and the festival following that, no matter what. So, yeah.
I'm good with that, if everybody else
Okay,
is.
yeah, so, we have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So, I think Elizabeth, it may be your turn here. And do we have to do some, do we have to bring any people into this Zoom?
We're going into executive session
Yeah,
first.
yeah, we need a motion for that.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to move in to conduct an executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, and lease of value of real property located on Route 6A, and the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and that to reconvene an open session for the purpose of adjournment or vote.
We have to continue our agenda.
Yes,
Yeah, to
right.
For the purpose of continuing the agenda.
Second.
Correct?
Made and seconded. All in favor by roll call. Kevin?
Hi, Kevin Galligan.
I'm Mary Wright.
I'm F. Runyon.
Michael Herman?
Hi, Mark Matheson.
Okay, so executive session, and we're coming out with the report that we will be considering the article, the warrant item, excuse me, the agenda item number 10 with a joint meeting with the Affordable Housing Trust in the near future. And that is all we have to report. And with that, I think I would like a motion.
You want to skip liaisons?
I do.
Mr. Chair, at 8:31, I will move that we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.